here we go. Enjoy the show. Alright, good morning. Welcome to the channel. This morning we're going to be doing front and rear brake pads on a 2017 F150. It's got a 2.6 liter straight 6 engine in it. I know you're supposed to do pads and rotors, but parts these days are expensive, so whatever the customer wants is what the customer gets. Enjoy the show. Alright, so this morning we're going to be doing some brake pads on my buddy's truck here, front and rears. So welcome to the channel, and enjoy the show, and let's get her done. So excuse the mess and the primitive area. I'm working on this one at home, so believe it or not, I actually have a better tool set here than I do at the shop, so better for me to work on things here. Alright, so as you saw, let me go ahead and turn you over here. We got the truck up on jack stands, so we are safe. Emergency brake is set, and wheels are chocked, and we are set to go. So these particular wheels here take special lug nut cube, which is what we got here. It's a spline lock. I don't know if you can see that in there, but it's a spline lock cube. Fits right over a socket, and let's get her done. Alright, so before we get started, it's always a good idea to pop the hood and open the brake reservoir. So let me go ahead and show you how to do that. So I've already got the hood popped. Let's go ahead and get in there and pop open the hood, and you can see the brake fluid reservoir right here. What we're just going to do is we're just going to pop that right open, set the cap to the side up here, and just leave that open like that. Let's go ahead and check the fluid level in there, and as you can see, it is a little low. The max line is right there. You can see the line. The minimum line is right down there, right under the tape, and it's right in between the two. So when the brake fluid is low, it does not necessarily mean that you have a brake leak. It could just mean that you have low brake pads. So which is why we're not going to fill it up, and we're just going to open it up and leave it open like that, and you'll see why in just a few minutes. So the selected tools that we are going to be using today, for the most part, is just in case, I brought out some hooks for hanging brake calipers, and I'm going to use a short 10-inch half-inch drive with a breaker bar with a 21mm socket on it, and I got an electric gun here with also a 21mm socket on there. So we're going to go ahead and get it done with these few tools here, and enjoy the show. Alright, let's go ahead and break loose some of these bolts up here, and see what we can do to get these off here. Alright, so it's a little bit tighter than I expected, so let's take this 10-inch off, and let's get a little bit bigger breaker bar. Got ourselves a brake caliper press here, so we're going to use that to open the calipers, and we'll get her done. took my big breaker bar to get it loose. Loosen it up a little bit. Now let's break the bottom. Alright, now that it's broken, let's go ahead and switch back to our little 10-inch here. Now that it'll be easier to turn. Alright, see if this guy works now. Power tools always make things easier and faster. Everybody always has different opinions. Everybody always has different opinions on what kind of tools you should be using and who and what name brand. They say stay away from Harbor Freight, they say stay away from Snap-on, they say stay away from everybody pretty much. It just depends on the mechanic. So if I'd like to prove a little point to you, say I'm not sponsored or affiliated or promoted by any way by any tool company, so I can pretty much say anything I want about any tool company, and I like them all, really, honestly. So this is a Snap-on drill gun. I've got a Husky socket with a O'Reilly's brand adapter on it, and this is O'Reilly's, of course, and O'Reilly's and Snap-on, and I use them all, and in my opinion they all work just the same. So go ahead and slide this guy right up off of here so it's nice and loose. So let's go ahead and slide it right up off of there, and we'll get it done. So I'm gonna need looks like a number 12 right there. Now, the only reason why you'd be taking the whole bracket off would be to change the rotor. In this case, we don't have to do it. I'm just showing you just in case you're going to be doing a rotor, you know how to do it. But since we're already there, we're going to go ahead and take it off, and we're going to check everything out behind there and make sure everything's okay. But first, before I do that, I'd like to go ahead and back this back in just a little bit. Screw that in a little bit. Screw that in a little bit just to make sure it's sturdy on there. And looks like it was actually a number 13. So let me get a wrench for it. Harbor Freight, on Home Depot sockets. Let's go ahead and switch that to off, and the bottom one. There's one bolt. There's the other. You can see I'm hanging on to the caliper here because there is officially nothing holding the caliper to the truck. There we go. Now, hang the caliper off the hooks that I showed you, and take the bracket off, and we're just gonna go ahead and check out the rotor, make sure the rotor is fine. So there's no warping, there's no cracking, there's no burn marks. This rotor is actually in excellent condition, like new actually. There's actually I don't see any reason why we should even be changing the rotor at this point. This buddy of mine who drives this truck only drives around from his house to the gas station, to the grocery store, and back home to work. So for a truck that's 18, 19, 20, 21, a 4-year-old truck, it's very, very low mileage. It's like new condition. So, and it's not even used like a ranch truck or nothing. It's just to go to town. It's just to go to the grocery store and all that. So, let's get back to it. Alrighty, let's go ahead and unbox these pads here. These are the front pads. See if we can get it open. If we can't get it open, that's why they made screwdrivers, box cutters, and grinding wheels. There we go. So we got the hardware kit here. The hardware kit goes on the ends of these guys here, and these are the new pads. So we got the insides and the outsides on both sides. So it looks like it's all here. So let's go ahead and transfer this back over to the work site where we are working. I don't see any kind of lubricants or anti-seize or anything in the box, but that's okay. I have some anti-seize here, and I got some brake parts lubricant, and I've even got some disc brake quiet, so that way when we put the new pads on, they don't squeak or squeal or anything like that. So enjoy the show, and let's get her done. Alrighty, so working on cars is always messy work, so keep a rag and some cleaning solutions, hand cleaning materials, and I even got a can of brake cleaner over there we can use to kind of clean up the rotor and all of that before we put everything back together, just to limit dust and dirt and grime and all of that can get in between the pads and the rotors. That's something you don't want to do, is get especially dirt or oil or grime in between the pads and the rotors. That can cause a lot of issues. Dust and dirt can cause the pads to cut grooves into the rotors, which can cause brake problems, or even brake noise, or brake shudder, or vibration down the road, and that's not something we want to do. So we could probably take this off altogether, and since we're already there, clean it up real good with some brake clean, wipe it off, and put it all back together, and we'll just go ahead and get her done. So let me kind of reposition my pad here so I can sit down and I can work comfortably. So let's go ahead and we'll get this let's go ahead and turn this down a little bit. Let's go ahead and get this all taken apart. So you can see, we'll go ahead and pull these old pads out of there, and you can see already the piece of hardware is missing from this side. And go ahead and take the other side out too, and the hardware sits right there. So we'll just go ahead and take out our trusty screwdriver that I made out of a push rod, and we'll stick it right up in there and pop those puppies right out of there. Go ahead and do the other side. Always orient how they went in. See, it's got that little clip, that little loop on there. That sat right on the outside there. That sat just like that. So remember how that goes back in. What I like to do is I like to keep the other side in, until I get it all, until I get the other side in. That way you got a point of reference. So what I'm gonna do is this bright quiet here. We'll go ahead and open this guy up. And what this does is it reduces or eliminates any kind of brake noise that there may be. You never ever put it on the pad itself. It only goes to where metal touches metal. So go ahead and stick it right in there, just a little dab. And then we'll, by orienting ourselves with the clip still on the other side, you see I put just a little dab on there. We'll go ahead and snap this guy right in there, just this little guy. And it snaps in just like that. Like I said, messy work. So get ourselves cleaned up, clean off a little bit that got to where it may not have been supposed to get, and new clip is in there. So we'll go ahead and get all the other 4 done and enjoy the show. Alright, so we got all 4 clips in. We got the brake parts lube on there, and that's good to go. So we'll go ahead and set this aside for just a moment, and we'll go ahead and reposition the camera, and we'll open up those calipers. I'll show you how they're done. So let's go ahead and set this aside over here, and we'll be with you in just a moment. Alrighty, now we're gonna press the calipers with the caliper press that I got here. So let's let me go ahead and grab this real quick. I'd like to show you that caliper hook. See how it works? You just hang it off of something sturdy like the control arm or a leaf spring or whatever you can hang it off of. Don't hang it off of hoses or any kind of brake lines or anything like that. So we'll go ahead and pull this down off of here. And see if we can orient this in a way where you can see what we're going to be doing. So these are the pistons, the brake pistons. And how this tool works is, I'm going to open it up first. There we go. It's opened up all the way. Stick it right in there, just like that. You see how it fits in there? And you just like a caulking gun, it closes up, and now you got this piece here firmly attached to the caliper, and these pieces here evenly positioned over the pistons. And now you just, now remember I was telling you up there earlier, when we opened up the master cylinder, that it's open, so when I press these, that brake fluid is actually going to go up. So let's go ahead and open these calipers up a little bit. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a doing, but we'll get there. Now keep in mind, I don't have the other side taken apart yet. You want to do these one at a time when you're using this tool. Otherwise, if you take the caliper apart on the other side, all it's going to do is push the pistons out. And if you push those pistons out too far, they can push out completely and tear the seal, which in another case, the seal would have to be replaced. And the only way to do that is to replace the whole caliper, unfortunately. These things get very expensive. So let's play it safe and do one side at a time. Alright, so that should be open up far enough. So let's go ahead and get our caliper hook, hang it back up here again. Well, actually, let's go ahead and we'll hang it off of this first. Actually, it was on this side. I'll hang it back up here again. Let's go ahead and pull this rotor off and get it clean now. So give me just a moment, I'll be right back with some brake clean. Alright, we're all set to go. So you saw me using a little rag earlier to Wipe my hands off, keep it clean. Wipe gunk and goop off and stuff. Don't use the same rag when you're cleaning your rotor. So in that case, we're going to get a fresh rag. Got my brake parts clean right here, and we're going to see what we can do to work this rotor off. So since we're already there, we're going to go ahead and open this guy up, and we're going to start with the back side of the rotor. See, there's a little bit of, I don't know if you can see it, but there's some dust and goop on there. Let's go ahead and work that off of there. Just make it nice and clean, get it up, get all the dirt and goop and grime off. Now we got a nice shiny clean rotor. Let's go ahead and turn it over, and let's do the other side. See, this has got junk on there. It doesn't need to be on there too. So let's go ahead and, I don't know if you can see it right here, but right here I did get a couple of dots of brake quiet. It's not supposed to be on the rotor where the pads touch the rotor. That's not supposed to be there. So we'll go ahead and focus a little bit of that stuff right there, and we'll wipe that stuff off. Go ahead and turn my rag over, and we'll go ahead and wipe this rotor clean too. This side's a little bit dirtier than the other side was, so we'll put a little bit more of that stuff on there. Clean part of the rag again. Now we got ourselves a nice clean rotor. Turn it over one more time. And put it back up on the truck. It just sits right on there. Now, on different makes and models, they're all different. A lot of Hondas will have little set screws that you screw in there and press it all together, and it holds it onto the wheel hub. And others, like my Ford, I got a big 3/4 ton diesel Ford. They have bigger rotors and heavier rotors, and they tend to get frozen onto the hub. And a lot of times with something like that, you gotta get a little blowtorch and heat it up right around the hub here. And always try to, so you would want to heat it up right around here, right around where the hub meets with the rotor. Sometimes it freezes up in there due to rust or corrosion or whatever else it may be. So you heat it up a little bit with the torch, and then you hit these points. Try not to hit the studs. These studs can be delicate, especially on Chevys. So you hit it here, 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 and here, and here, and it'll pop it loose. Never hit it on the rotor, on this part, or on the back side, especially if you're going to reuse the rotors. That's not something you want to do. You want to try to keep these as pristine as possible. So let's go ahead and move this back over here, and let me see if I can reposition this camera here. Alright, we're good to go. Now we'll go ahead and pull this guy back out again. So we'll go ahead and put a little bit of lube right on the inside parts of this, or brake quiet. Like I said, just little dabs. Be mindful to keep it where it's not going to be touching anything it shouldn't be touching. Now, before we go any farther with this, before we put the pads on, we're going to go ahead and mount this right back up to the truck. So let's go ahead and turn this then orient it the way it wants to be, and put it back on the truck. Now, okay, so that's just to hold it there. This is where those other compounds that I was telling you about comes in. See this little red mark on there? That's actually anti-seize or thread lock. We're not going to be using that. We're going to be using the anti-seize. We're not going to be using thread lock. Everywhere I have ever worked for the past 20 some odd years I've been doing this has always told me, don't ever put thread lock on brake components. You may not be able to get it back off again. So just put a little bit of anti-seize, just a little dab. Put that right up on there. And we'll go ahead and slide it on the bottom here. And there's a little hole here for on the brake knuckle. This one we'll go ahead and tighten up. That one's nice and tight. And so is that one. That ain't going anywhere. Now, get our trusty 10-inch, take the socket off of it, put it back in our big guy here. Let me get up on my knees here so I can get a little bit of leverage. And we're going to tighten these guys up. There's one. There's two. Now we are ready to put on calipers. There's two. There's four. Okay, so these are a little bit different in the back. You see how this one's got 4 little dowel pins, and the other side's only got 2. See, this is nice and smooth, and there's a little dowel pin right there. Now you want to put those back in the correct spot. A good way to check for that is to check the old pads. So this one has 4 on it, and it's got the markings from the caliper up here. So that's the outside, and it's pretty obvious to tell the inside. The one that's only got 2, it's got these 2 rings on it. That's the piston side. So that's the inside. So we'll get the one that's got only 2. And again, we'll put a little bit of disc brake quiet on there. Just like that. Now these guys, what we'll go ahead and do is we'll kind of rub them in a little bit. Just so that way we don't get excess out anywhere that we don't need it to be. Just like that. And we'll go ahead and stick these in curve side and towards the curve side of the rotor. So we'll go ahead and stick the top in. Alrighty, we're back over on the other side now, and we'll get our other caliper here. We'll orient it with the other caliper here, where you can see where the caliper's touched. The black parts is where the caliper touched the pad, and that's gonna be the only places where we put the stuff. You know, same as before, just a little dab, and check it again one more time. Another one right in the middle. Alrighty, we're back. We're back on the back side here. We're gonna go ahead and pull these pins out. They just slide right out. They're just this got like a little lip on here which holds onto the end of the rubber. It's not hard to get it back in there. Now we're gonna put a little bit of brake parts lube on it. Let's go ahead and open this guy up. Same as the anti-seize, just put a little dab on there all the way around. It's a little bit different. Just lube it up real good, and then we'll slide it right on back in there. Push it in, see, and then it'll pop right back in. We'll get our trusty little rag over here and we'll wipe off the excess. That one's ready to go, so let's go ahead and do the top. Now we're ready to press the caliper back on. So let's go ahead and grab this caliper. Now when you put the caliper back on, taking it off, putting it on, you want to make sure you don't spin it or twist it in any way. You want to keep the this line here the way it's supposed to be. Go ahead and press it on over these pins here. And push the pins in and push it up on and over. The pads. And there we go. There it is. Now we'll get our caliper bolts. Put a little bit of anti-seize on there. Not too much. Just enough. Always do the top one first. That way it's got something to hang off of. There it is. Let's go ahead and get our gun. And this is number 13. Yeah, number 13. So these are 13s. These guys, or these guys here, are 21s. Just enough for now so this thing can still move around. And then we'll put a little bit of anti-seize on the lower bolt here. We'll slide that guy right up in there. Goes right in. And the bottom one, we'll go ahead and make it good and tight. Top one. There we go. Get our wrench back. And we'll tighten them up. Nowhere near as tight as the top ones. Just enough where they're good and tight. And there you go. This caliper is all done. Got it all lubed up and anti-seized and all up in there. You can see the new pads. See if I can get the flashlight up in there so you can see the new pads in there. And over here on the outside as well. There we go. And that's how you do the front pads and rotors, because we did take the rotor off and we did go through the whole process on how to clean it up. And when you get a brand new rotor, it will have like a film over it, it's almost like glue. But what that's there for is to help protect the rotor during packaging and shipping, storage, and all of that. So when you get a new rotor out, you clean all that stuff off. Clean it all off, and then you put it back on. Now, if there's any kind of markings or anything like that on these rotors, they would have to be turned. What's called turned. You could take that to any parts store, any mechanic shop that's capable of doing it. Alright, so these, you always want to hand screw them on several turns, at least 4 or 5 turns. That way you avoid any kind of cross threading. You never want to cross thread, under tighten, or over tighten a lug nut. So go ahead and get these guys on here, and we'll get her done. Alright, so let me go ahead and get the other side done, and we'll drop the vehicle down off of its jack stands, put it back down on the ground, and we'll torque these lug nuts down to proper spec. Enjoy the show. Alright, I don't know if you can notice that, but the brake level came up just slightly, so that's why I took the cap off of here. Got the cap up here on top of the cowl, but the brake level was actually down below this line a little bit, and now it's just up slightly above the line, so it'll go up a little bit more with the other three brakes. So by the time we're done, it should be up to the max level, and we'll just close it up and get her done. So the reason why I did it that way is to eliminate the need to do any kind of bleeding. I hate bleeding brakes, so that's a way I've learned to do it, and it's efficient. It works great, and it eliminates the reason to bleed brakes, and it eliminates any risk of getting air into the system, which can cause problems like soft pedal, spongy pedal, or even loss of brakes. So it's good practice. So enjoy the show. Alrighty, it's time to put the front of the truck back down and torque the tires. Alrighty, let's go ahead and torque those tires down to specifications. Alright, they're all torqued down.